Well, Donald Trump's controversial choice for US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth says he still has the full support of the president-elect. The former Fox News commentator lobbied senators on Capitol Hill overnight. As he tries to attract support for the role, Mr Hegseth is facing allegations of alcohol abuse and sexual assault. Co-heads of the new Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, told lawmakers of their plans to find more than $3 trillion savings. It's a fair bit of cash, isn't it? All right, joining me now is Professor Simon Jackman, our resident expert on US politics. I haven't spoken to you since the election all that time ago, so why don't we start with a brief musing on that? We spoke so much in the lead up to it. Does it feel as though the big factors were perhaps Kamala Harris played it a bit safe and thought she was closer than she was, and then, you know, when we look back at it, Joe Biden just hung on for so long, there's never much time to mount a proper campaign?
Yeah, I think the Biden factor would be one, Tom. But I'd also just point to, irrespective of who the Democrat was, Biden or Harris, very difficult environment to seek re-election in. As much as Democrats were talking up their chances, and as close as the election turned out to be, by the way, you had a right track, wrong direction number, just a blinking red light for any incumbent government, that number. And Biden's own approval rating, not great either. And so those were real sort of flashing signals of state of the economy, perhaps being the driver in common there, that this was going to be a really tough cycle. But it meant, you know, historically, you'd look at a state of the economy that the US had going into the election, and you'd say it'd be a close election, and it turned out to be just that. Really interesting data point, though, Tom, was that I heard an interview with our former, your former colleague in the journalism profession, Jonathan Swan, who was embedded with the Trump campaign for most of the campaign. And he said the Trump team's analytics showed them winning the election almost the entire summer and into the North American fall. Nothing seemed to really move the needle appreciably. And Tom, I cast my mind back to seeing what is Trump doing in states like Virginia, what was Trump doing in New Mexico towards the end of the campaign. And I think that spoke to a mindset where they thought they were going to win. And if anything, could they expand the map and perhaps even get a stronger result in the US Senate or in the US House of Representatives than the one they got? So some sort of sense that they had it in the bag, frankly, at least the Trump's own data and their own campaign analytics.
There you go. You know, for all the talks of the Democratic machine, if the analytics, if that was their take versus the Democrats, they had the better takes, perhaps. All right, so that's Donald Trump so far, clearly, I mean, last time it came as a surprise to him winning this election. This time, as you alluded to, supremely confident. He's known for a long time what he has wanted to do. Has it been an interesting check so far on some of his choices that, you know, one's hit the fence already and we've got Hegseth struggling? Yeah. You know, guess what? It's still a democracy.
Yeah. So, Tom, it's so interesting, right? You always knew, and one prediction I will stand by, is that this was not going to look like Trump Mark I in terms of the appointments. But even with that sort of, you know, it being a forethought there, he has gone far and beyond where I thought he would go with the appointments he announced. Personal loyalty, yes, prime among the criteria he's looking for. But some of these picks are just, you know, to say they're controversial is perhaps a huge understatement. But this is Trump certainly putting his mark on it, sending a really clear signal that he will not be captured by what he sees as the deep state a second time around. And yeah, I mean, one of them, Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, that was just sort of literally mouth wide open when I heard that. And I wasn't too surprised that that one didn't last too long. And we'll see, was that softening up so that, you know, to let Hegseth get through, we'll see. But, you know, my assessment is that this one is hanging by a thread. You've got Republican senators being drawn out on very favourable media environments in the US, on Fox News and whatnot. They will not back this guy in just yet. And I think this one probably faces an uphill battle. And, you know, he's alive until Trump says he's not. And I think it's just a matter of Trump counting the votes and figuring how much horse trading does he want to engage in over this one.
Yeah, and always, no matter what, Donald Trump's not alone. Always make it look as though you made the decision and not someone else for you.
That's right.
Look, I guess the two one of the really interesting things has already been his stance on tariffs. This is a really early warning shot, and it's something he does regularly, isn't it? But I think it shows that if people sort of thought, oh, well, he might not go as far as that, is he going to really? Is this going to be much more dramatic than the first presidency? Because he's ready. There's no COVID to interrupt things, we don't think, touch wood. But, stuff like migration, the tariffs, $3 trillion in savings, Simon. That'll be felt across the country.
Yeah, if only we could delete that line item in the federal budget labelled waste and fraud, Tom. Wouldn't life be a lot easier?
Let's get rid of that. Done. No more.
Right. I think what Musk will discover two things. One, as a practical matter, it is very hard to go to $3 trillion in savings, number one. But number two, the political will. Keep in mind that Republicans, their majority in the House is one of the most narrow we've seen in history, that Trump himself will have a very slender mandate, if any. At the end of the day, now that all the votes are counted, he's got less than 50% of the popular vote. He's got Congress by just a handful of votes. To the extent they need legislative action, and ultimately the budget is the bottom line and the appropriations are the power of Congress, it's going to run into political headway as well. But, and you've got to give Musk some credit, right? SpaceX is just one of the most remarkable companies on the planet at this time. The pace of innovation, and if you put up against it the slow pace of innovation that we saw out of NASA during the space shuttle years, where to launch a space shuttle was costing $1 billion a throw, the pace at which SpaceX is doing things. This guy knows how to engineer solutions to big, complex engineering challenges. So let's see where this one lands. I'm extremely curious about it.
I've got to leave it there, but I guess the point is maybe look at SpaceX, not Twitter, if you're talking about what Elon Musk is capable of.
That's the successful company. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Talk soon.